Okay.
Donda West is the heart and soul of Kanye West doc, Jeen-Yuhs. Okay, so I did see some clips, like with a 1-minute clip floating around Twitter because it was a trending topic this morning as I was gathering things for this show.
What was the clip?
It was when she said, Giant looks in the mirror and sees nothing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't stand out to you.
Where was it?
They're sitting at the kitchen table.
Oh, okay. At her house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people love that clip. They're like, oh, dang, imagine having that type of support. That like anybody with that support would have made it to have a fan like that. I hate to break it to you. I knew a lot of people who had moms as their biggest fans, and it didn't go that way. So you got to have you got to have a lot it's a comprehensive type of package. But it sure does not hurt to have some support like that and to have that emotion and mood. And again, I haven't watched the whole thing, but many people are giving her some due credit for her contribution to well, everything that happened, really. Yeah. All that music and motivation and whatever else. And I mean, your parents play a big role. Your mother plays a big role. Like this is a developmental stuff. This is who you are. A lot of it hedges on these interactions and these relationships. And if it weren't for this documentary, I certainly would not have had the insight into it to that extent. I mean, I knew there was a lot. I mean, he called the record. He's constantly talking about his mom. But here you see firsthand what's going on. So maybe watching the doc is worthwhile just for that extent to get a little bit more insight over there. But you know, that's the other thing that happens now with Netflix shows is that the clips go on Twitter. The same thing happened with the Michael Jordan thing. All the memes and clips, they just go on Twitter. Sure. So you kind of feel like you watched it. Like it seems that with Netflix docs, there is no spoiler thing.
Yeah.
Whereas
Which is really bizarre.
Yeah, if you got like the Mandalorian type stuff, people don't really put clips onto social media.
No.
I guess because it's more like the documentary is more like it's what happened, and people kind of put like their ideas into it. Whereas a Mandalorian or Boba Fett, it's like the story, and people don't want the story spoiled.
I hear you, but so it could have either effect on you, right? I think some people see the clips, and I think it's a big bonus for Netflix because it's people go, oh, what's that from? And then all of a sudden they're on Netflix or they're getting a subscription or whatever in order to watch the whole thing. But others might feel like they got the gist of it too. Where if you're
it's like, I'm good. I don't need to watch the whole thing.
Every time an episode comes out, you just watch some of the clips that are posted on Netflix. So Netflix got to be careful about the right amount. I'm sure they know this because they'll put the Netflix logo at the end. So these are the clips they put out are the ones they want. And I think they police any more than that.
Right.
So they kind of treat it like little mini teasers every time an episode drops. For these real life documentary style. They were doing the same thing, I think, with the Michael Jordan one was on Netflix too, right?
Yeah, The Last Dance.
Yeah, The Last Dance. Yeah, it's a very similar feeling I'm having right now, as far as the social media interaction.
Sure.
With the documentary style being published to Netflix.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to this duo, these directors who created it, because it's all footage that they filmed. Like there's no, at least so far, there isn't like interviews or anything like that. There's a narrative, but it's all footage from the past.
Which is really cool because it's just captured
like compared to Last Dance, I mean, you know, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, like they were interviewed, but this is just full on footage.
Okay, but I'm not, I understand what you're saying, but are you suggesting that is better than if they would have had Kanye to interview for the whole thing?
I think so.
I would agree with him.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So you wouldn't want to hear his side of these moments?
No, and I think that's like because then it feels way less biased this way. And on top of that, with Talking Heads, they guide the story in a direction, right? And I know the editor's doing the same thing with the footage he has, but that's the magic of it. This is just already footage that's already been recorded. You can't do anything. You can't finesse it with, and then this happened.
No, but I guess I'm talking more from the standpoint of information gathering, that you would for sure just get more context if you had the access to the individual.
Yeah.
Like conducting an interview is going to uncover things that weren't captured.
So would you have liked to see Kanye kind of directing this footage and kind of giving his insight on the time?
For the record, that could happen, right, in upcoming episodes? Or is this going to be the
Sure, yeah.
form? Or maybe this is the
more,
I don't
right?
know.
Yeah.
Maybe in the last episode or something, there's an interview. Maybe it's a new form. I'm all for creativity. Like I'm not saying one style is better than the other. It's just when you spoke so strongly about it, I was like, well, interviews aren't always bad in
No,
documentaries.
The Last Dance was amazing.
Right.
You know, I just think that this is such a raw style that it's very organic in a sense. Kanye didn't have any directorial say with this
Right,
film at
Which
all.
is
Right.
a documentary.
But for the record, if you look at Last Dance, I'm not just talking about Jordan. I mean, they had other basketball players. Like the clip with Isaiah Thomas was like legendary, or Gary Payton or his own teammates. Like you could have had. Imagine if you had Jay-Z in an interview over here.
Sure, yeah. I just can't, like, just based on the flow of this, like, I just can't imagine how he would add more to this documentary.
Especially
That's-
Kanye, I think he would muddy the waters a little bit.
I mean,
know,
that,
but-
like, even in, like, the footage here,
Well, you're
like, he
talking
goes
about
through,
it.
like,
I know, but see, that's the difference between talking about it like a piece of art versus a documentation of an event that happened. If we were investigating an event that took place, the footage is one component. But like, if let's say it was a criminal event, what happens by gathering people's perspectives is you get the before, you get the after the camera started rolling,
Sure.
you get it's context.
Yeah.
It's texture. Like, for example, okay, there's a clip. For somebody who hasn't watched it yet, this is what social media has made me aware of. There's a clip where he walks into Rockefeller and he approaches somebody and he's going around the office trying to play All Falls Down, right?
yeah.
And the reaction is lukewarm, to say the least. Okay, so that's...
Now, would that be better if Kanye was Kanye now is talking about the time he went to Rockefeller?
Well,
and
I'm
how
going to
he
give you
tried
an
to impress
example. I'm
people?
going to give you an example of when you make the artistic exchange to say we want this to feel this way instead of having the interview is you miss information. And not misinformation, you miss
Sure, yeah.
information.
Yeah.
So, for example, the office that he was in, that woman now has been made famous on Twitter as far as like, how can you not bop your head to this song? She's just sitting there like, well, whatever.
Yeah. I feel like it's the opposite. I feel like it's more interpretation to the viewer. Because if there is no context of like this person who's giving context to the actual clip.
So do you know who that person is?
No.
See, that's my problem. That's what would have happened had you had an interview. You would have been able to disclose that. So she's getting killed on social media right now for not knowing what good music is. Meanwhile, she got an entire career. She made all types of hits. She's not just some random marketing intern. She's a person with a Wikipedia page. You can look her up, but no one's talking about that.
No.
So but this thing is going to be bigger than whatever her legacy is. And now she's going to be known as the person who didn't bop her head to that song. Meanwhile, she probably got 1,000 different people playing their tracks on any given day.
Right.
And it's like, you have to come from a relatively skeptical point of view. But this is going to be Kanye fans. It's going to be people looking in the rearview mirror who know it was a huge hit, platinum, whatever.
Yeah.
So my point is not about enjoyment and not about entertainment, because we watch fiction. We watch stuff that never even happened. My point is when you have a real story that took place, you want to try your best to get the facts straight.
Fill in the blanks.
As much as possible. And so I would say one of the downsides, we're just talking about form. We're not talking about story. We're just talking about form. One of the downsides with keeping it really artistic, because you're definitely illustrated the upsides.
Yeah.
Upsides are you don't get stuck in this old format of like, oh, we're sitting back down in a goddamn room. It feels probably more like the energy that was around him at the time. That you get to really take a vehicle back in time. If you sit down and you have to keep going between right now and the past. And I think that's why Last Dance went back and forth.
Right.
It wasn't linear. Last Dance was
With like the
time
past.
the time frame.
Yeah.
It was like you were going between different moments in time to try to mess with you a little bit on when things happened, which was again a creative decision that might not have been the most effective as far as delivering information, but made things more enjoyable. So it's constantly a transaction of those things. But yeah, that's one example of how you can have an information gap when your focus is smoothness or creative elements.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think maybe like in the future there could be like another cut for this, right?
Mm.
But I don't know. Who knows?
Kanye's
Kanye
take.
commentary,
Yeah.
or
The
I mean, the thing is, Kanye's not enough because the footage has like I watched 5 minutes and you had Mos Def and Talib Kweli, and
Yeah.
there's going to be so many people. And that's another thing. It would be very daunting to try to arrange with all those people's schedules. I mean, that would be like a lifelong task to try
For
to
sure.
get their take and run interviews with everybody. And you're right as well, by the way. Just because you got an interview doesn't necessarily mean you got more facts. Because people, you know how it is with memory. It's a slippery thing with time.
Yeah.
And you might talk about something in a way that's not actually even the way it happened, but now we're taking that as fact. So testimony is only one piece as well.
Yeah.